The time will pass anyway, whether you go about things in a mind and reality system changing way, or you go about things the same way you've been going about them. The key here is whatever you sort of set in autopilot, the things that you make mundane aspects of your reality slowly and systematically change your life in a really interesting way. So, the really powerful thing about something like neuroplasticity, where we're engaging in the actions of the person we want to be before we feel like we are that person, is that the practice almost feels like it's not working, but we place a certain amount of trust in the practice. And it is only further down the line when we forget about the practice that it really starts to take an effect. Because we forget we're doing it. And in that moment, our unconscious becomes reprogrammed in a different sort of way. The key here is when we're focusing too much on change, change almost feels impossible. But when we see change as a sort of constant, and that all we have to do is sort of put the code into our mind into gear and let time work its magic, it becomes a very different thing. You have to have a certain amount of patience. And this is why a lot of people who see success in life, in whatever aspect that may be, also see some sort of flourishing aspect of their mental fortitude as well. Because the things we do within our own inner world translate and are projected out onto the external world. How we treat ourselves is how we invite others to treat us as well. Because an interesting thing happens, right? If we want to project self worth and self value, we have to embody those traits as well. We can't expect the relationships that we have to mirror a different way of being than what we actually are. How is your mind supposed to adjust and sort of send you the emotions that are calibrated with confidence and self value when you're still letting the same sort of emotional connections walk over your boundaries? The change that many of us are looking for are going to come as a result of small, fixated actions. It's the sort of actions where you don't even realize you're doing it, and those are the ones that completely make up the algorithm that is your life. Because our mind state, our state of being, and how we treat ourselves reflects onto reality in the way we see synchronicities, in the way we interact with people, in the way we view the world. This is why it's so important to become conscious as well, because only when we become conscious can we actually implement the change instead of just interacting with the change. Because if you go about things the way you would normally go about them, you're sort of going to live what a lot of spiritualists call the unconscious karma in a way, sort of almost the life path that has been set for you from the day you were born. And that's a path of environmental influence and conditioning and choices made because others expect that of you, the society expects that of you, and not because that's the choice you would have made in the deepest of your essence. These two paths separate each other, and in the space between their separation is a great deal of uncertainty. And that's when change becomes sort of a doubtful experience because we think that change is immediate and that change is completely reactive to our initial wanting to change. But the wanting to change, what that does is it sets the intention, right? So now, sort of, your mind and even reality is sort of like, okay, let's see it now. Let's see it. Let's see you embody it. And that's the key to everything. It's those little actions. Remember, I'm going to say this almost in every episode. Those little actions make up your sort of personal system algorithm. That's going to change the way you influence reality. It's going to change the way you influence and interact with other people. If you can bring consciousness into the aspects of your life that are sort of running on autopilot, you can change your life completely because reality is reacting to us. Reality is inviting us to perform for it. And not perform in a way where we're wearing a mask on a grand stage and we're trying to impress people, but rather the universe is sort of saying, show me who you are. Show me who you've decided to be, and I will reflect that state of being for you. It takes two to tango. You can't just expect the universe to move things suddenly without you sort of being able to embody the energy that is aligned with those things you are looking for. And I don't mean you have to brainwash yourself. I mean building a sort of self-confidence and assurance that whatever the weight is of what you want, you can handle it. Whatever the weight is of your deepest desires, you are strong enough to carry it. There is no limitations, there are no bounds to what you can handle. Because as soon as you put limitations on the blessings, as soon as you put limitations on the growth and the evolution, you tell the universe, I can't handle everything that I want. And what kind of energy does that give off? That doesn't give off a trailblazing fire in spirit that is willing to experience everything at large and willing to experience itself and willing to experience just how much they can be the creator of their reality. And that's the realization that we need. So when we come back to the focal point, change. What are we doing to get in the way of change? We set the intention. We say, okay, I'm going to talk differently. I'm going to act differently. So what happens after? Then we run into a sort of intense wall of fear. And we begin to think, oh, maybe I could maneuver around this fear and move on to the next wall. I'll get back to that one fear when the time is right. But that's not how it works. The exact fear you're looking to avoid, the one that you want to save for last until you're the strongest, that's the one you need to do right now. That's the one you need to conquer and run through right now. Because when we desensitize ourselves to these difficulties, when we grow a tolerance for these difficulties, the universe starts to trust us in a way with the things that we've been asking for. Because we are suitable now to handle it. And not just handle it, but we are magnetic enough to change reality in a way where change is an exciting thing and not something that we fear. We don't invite change into our life by just asking for it. We don't invite change by just wanting it. We don't even invite change by just setting the intention. We invite change by doing the same boring, different actions than we did yesterday every single day. That's when change happens. When you don't think about the result, when you put it into the processor that is the mind and you let it cook, you let it marinate, then things start to get really wild because you don't expect the result. You just trust the process. And that process that you're trusting is you. You're trusting your mind to act as the system, to act as the computer, and you're trusting your awareness, your presence. You could even say your soul to do the heavy lifting. And in this way, your mind doesn't get in the way because any anxiety, any fear, any thought that comes up, that's just the computer running. That's just the program. And if you're still caught in that, you won't be able to make the sort of change that is life altering and reality changing. It's not going to be on this side of the wall. There's a wall of fear in between where we're at now and where we want to be. There is no way around it. If you try to tackle other fears, other small discomforts, that could be sort of a nice training, but the real change you're looking for is running directly through that one thing that you're avoiding. Because in the avoidance is also the acceleration. What is difficult progresses us way more than what is easy. What is uncomfortable makes us way stronger than what is simply a little bit uncomfortable. So it's not a matter of how bad do we want to change. It's a matter of how willing are we to implement the boring changes every single day in our life. And secondly, when will be the point when we've had enough? Some people have had enough right now, and others, it may take 1 or 2 more years of misery before they finally say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to change. I will change who I am and I will demand that reality changes. And that demand, that request, will always be accepted because in that request, in that demand, you finally acknowledge your power.